It has been held by mariners of old that terror at sea is unlike any other, for there a man is adrift in an unforgiving universe of indigo infinity, over which he has little, if any, command. Worse still are the raging horrors that lay in wait beneath the midnight waves. You're about to learn about one such horror, which is revealed in a story entitled Up from the Depths. If you're therefore inclined to ask, why here, and why now, I would ask in return, why not? After all, such things are an everyday occurrence on the Nightfall radio show. Up from the Depths. Journal entry, August 1856. The following is a true and accurate account of the events surrounding myself and the clipper, Mercury, her captain and the crew in July 1851. Although the event lies now 5 years in the past, it was an experience in which, for me, the true nature of terror and anguish of the human soul was realized with devastating finality. To say that the sun, while at sea, is unbearable would not only be a tremendous understatement, but would rather in any acknowledged high court be grounds for the admission of insanity. My name is Richard Armstrong Kent. This is my 11th day at sea, and I will confess to you that this sun is maddening. There has scarcely been an hour when I did not feel my very sanity being pulled away from me, as if it were not my own. As though my very soul was suddenly ripped from my body and cast beyond the dark veil. Today is Thursday, I think, and if that were so, it would be the 16th of July, 1851. I must, as I am determined, get these words down while my mind remains intact. This, I fear, shall not be the case for much longer, for the salt and surf and unforgiving heat are wreaking all manner of damnation down upon me. But I will try nonetheless. If my memory has not failed me, we set sail 13 days ago out of Moresby, New Guinea, aboard the clipper Mercury that was bound for Invercargill, New Zealand. My firm, the Worthington, Hammond and Freneau Company, had secured freight and passage aboard the ship. I was chief agent of export and had been dispatched along with my staff to investigate potential market expansion into exotic herbs, tobacco, and textiles. Commanding the Mercury was Captain Josiah Wells, a Negro, as was I, but American by birth. It was in him that I felt a certain and inevitable bond. Though my own birthplace of Barrow Creek, Australia, was, it seemed, both symbolically and literally a world away, I admired him nonetheless, and even liked him, for in him I saw everything that a man of color could be. It was perhaps this, more than anything else, that made the horror which followed thereafter that much more poignant. Our first day and night at sea was calm and uneventful. It seemed that everyone aboard was in good spirits, save one, the captain's first mate, whom we knew as Ferrer. He was heard by my ears only making low, mumbled references to himself about the dangerous waters surrounding the Coral Sea Islands and about some obscure legend held by the natives of New Caledonia. Of this matter I invested little attention and was for all intents and purposes completely engrossed in the various duties that my new post demanded. I busied myself with preliminary duty applications and export license requisitions. By sunset on the second day, we were approaching the Lihu Reefs, and I was on deck looking out at the scarlet horizon. I closed my eyes and allowed my nostrils to engulf the warm, salty South Pacific air, when a scream rattled and shook the very wood beneath my feet. The scream, I determined, had come from the starboard end of the ship, and I dashed wildly to where I thought the madness had originated. I tripped on a rope coiled up in the passageway as I passed the bridge. but was able somehow to maintain enough balance to keep from falling. When I stopped, and I choose my words here with great care so that this account will be accurate and beyond challenge. When I stopped, I beheld a scene which truly threatened to push me over into the realm of utter madness. The thing, and this is a word that I must use for lack of any sensible point of comparison, the thing was immense, being larger than any man, and I immediately estimated its height to be at least 8 feet. But further, I would describe it as having a thick, rubbery skin that was drab gray and seemed to be covered with some bizarre secretion, which brought to mind the image of an eel wiggling in fisher gloves. But nothing else about it was eel-like in any way. Its eyes were yellow and hideous, for they bulged in an obvious fit of rage. Its arms and legs were thin, but not frail, for I watched it hurl men, seamen at that, around like so many discarded paper sacks. Such was the beast's strength that some men died upon impact with the bulkhead or on the deck as their very bones were shattered and pulverized to the consistency of sand. Then I saw Captain Wells, his tall frame at its most formidable. He faced the thing in a remarkable display of fearless spite. Wells wielded his pistol and fired into the beast's midsection. Clearly the captain's aim was true, for the thing screamed in contemptible fury and rushed at Wells. The captain got off 2 more shots, and of the success of these I cannot speak, for the captain was taken. Not easily at first, for his own strength gave the beast cause to hesitate. But he was overcome and hurled into the sea with such ferocity that I could only think him dead. I saw that 4 crewmen lay dead or dying on deck, but I did not know how many, if any, save the captain, had been thrown overboard. My staff, Togan and Whitebush, were among the missing, and I feared them drowned, either by the beast's hands or of their own free will. Neither was outside the realm of possibility. I tried to think, tried to gather my thoughts. The creature was still raging, still smashing and wreaking havoc, giving no quarter. Then something occurred to me. Considering the unimaginable depths that the creature must have risen from, it would most likely be highly resilient to attacks of bullets, blades, or fists. Its anatomy was no doubt adapted to withstand the rigorous pressure of unknowable fathoms. On the other hand, its vision was assuredly adapted to a near lightless environment. Certainly the flame from one of the watch lanterns would allow me to keep the wretched thing at bay. I think perhaps that madness set in at that point, for little else could have inspired me to concoct such an ill-fated scheme, albeit from a clearly hellish situation. With fertile trepidation I followed the path of seething destruction left behind by the creature. There were twisted metal beams, shredded net portions, and pummeled, shapeless masses that had once been men. I found the beast just below deck, plundering and destroying as it had above. I decided that this was the moment to act. I yelled, getting the creature's instantaneous attention. Its quickness startled me, for its agility did not in any way correspond to its size. The beast came at me at an alarming pace, and I made for the deck with the dispatch of the ship's namesake. Once on deck, I faced the thing, though in retrospect I know that certainly my confrontation was unworthy of that of Captain Wells, whom I had so admired. And when our eyes met, mine and the creature's, I discovered what I had always suspected, but could never bring myself to admit. I could at certain times be a complete and utter coward. Somehow, and from somewhere, I mustered something that might be called courage, but also desperation. The thing continued to rage and snarl, but I continued to thrust the lantern at it. Its head swayed and ducked to avoid the brunt of its light and heat. Then something amazing happened. The creature began to back away. It actually moved backwards, flailing its arms in the air in a fiery fit of rage. And now, perhaps, fear. It showed fear, and I fully intended to exploit it in order to survive. I continued to move forward with the lantern, repelling the beast, driving it closer and closer to the side of the ship where perhaps, with any good fortune, it could be forced over the side and into the sea. Closer and closer, moving together, it and I, my fear, anger, and anticipation mounting exponentially with each step taken. Then, I saw that I had clearly met my objective. We had come to the edge of the ship, and I felt the victory already mine. Just then, at the pinnacle of my conceit, the thing bolted, knocking me windless, but worse still, casting down the lantern onto the sun-brittled deck. The flames spread with remarkable rapidity, and I found myself instantaneously immersed in a wicked cauldron of my darkest nightmares, all realized and the entire world set ablaze. The fire, it seemed, was the perfect remedy for my dilemma, for I quickly discarded my confrontation with the creature and sought the escape and refuge of a lifeboat. I found one, still secured, and I lowered it into the water. But before leaving the ship, I hastened to grab a seaman's pack and then leapt into the sea. That is it, my story as it actually unfolded. I know not what became of the strange thing which haunted us that day, nor can I be certain of the fate of Captain Wells and his noble command. But I know that my testament and account of all of these events is true and accurate. You and all of history will be the judges of its final worth. As for myself, I continue to drift. I believe that I cannot be far from one of the islands of the coral reef. Now and again the cry of gulls reaches my ears, and this renews the promise of salvation and hope. And now the sun is setting on another day, but on this night my vow with fate must be broken, so that sleep, sweet, beautiful sleep, will find me.